Prayer will be offered by the Utah Interfaith Chaplain, Linda Walton. Linda, thank you.
Let's pray together. Our dear Father in heaven, we are so blessed to be able to be in this room together. We have personal blessings, we have area blessings, we have worldwide blessings. And for all the people who are here representing different neighborhoods or issues or whatever it might be, we are so grateful to have the type of government that would allow us to do this. Father, we're grateful for our neighbors. We're grateful for our roads and our school systems and all the things that make up our community. And we just pray that you will give the wisdom necessary for these individuals to make things even better. We would like to also pray for our sister cities and sister counties throughout the state, because it takes a village. And we've all got to be in this together. And we're so grateful you allow that. Father, finally, we pray that you will be with national and international leaders also, because boy, it's a mess, as you know, more than we do. And we just pray that the wisdom will be given to them that will help them sort it out, and that we can go forward from here and do some really wonderful things. Thank you for this meeting, and we pray for your spirit to be here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Linda. We'll now be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Councillor Becky Bogdan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It will now be our privilege to participate in a wonderful community presentation. This will be by the American Red Cross, recognizing Provo Fire and Rescue as the winner of the inaugural Battle of the Badges Blood. And we'll turn the time to Benjamin Donner, who is the Executive Director of the American Red Cross for Central and Southern Utah.
We've got our whole crew here, so.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for allowing us to be here, and our city council. This is an amazing time. And I'm the executive director of the American Red Cross, and wanted to share one very quick thing. About 6 years ago, I found myself in the emergency room of a hospital, Draper, Utah. I'd been a blood donor for 20 something years, since I was 16, and found myself there. And I was in need of blood to stay alive. And I needed 4 units of blood. And in that moment, what we get to be involved in every day, I thought I was passionate about it then. Now I'm a lot more. And there was a moment that I will never forget. And I hope this rings true. When I was in the ER, I was a little bit out of it. Obviously some complications there. And I remember vividly my son, who was 11 years old at the time, looked up at the doctor there in the emergency room and said, "Doctor, is my daddy going to die?" I remember that. As a father, I'd never anticipated that particular moment. And that night was the only night in my life I wasn't sure I was going to wake up the next day. And I remember that moment, but what came right after really made an impact. And what came was that emergency room physician that said, "Hey, it's going to be okay. We've got the blood that your dad needs. We're going to take care of him. He's going to be all right." My son, who does have autism, the calm that went over him in that moment, it was all okay. And what we're involved in here, and these amazing firefighters behind us, and we will say our police department here in Provo as well, absolutely incredible. They came together in support of our Battle of the Badges to make it a friendly competition, mostly friendly, right? A friendly competition to engage our community, to say, come out, support this effort. Some of you here also donated. Thank you. Thank you for being there. At the end of this, those lives that were affected. We collected 88. Gosh, we were just talking 88 units that day, which translate to over potentially 240 lives saved because of that day's event. And that's 240 potentially little boys saying, "Daddy or doctor, is my daddy going to die?" That can get that same answer. So on behalf of the Red Cross, my amazing counterpart here, our blood account manager, Jules Martinez, and our firefighters and Chief Hedman and your team, we do want to present this year's trophy of winning the Battle of the Badges to our awesome fire department, and they get to display it as close to the police department as they choose until next year, when we will do this again. And at the end, just saving lives as much as we can. So thank you. And on behalf of the Red Cross, we'll present this to our fire department. And we would like to take a photo.
That would
if
be
we-
great,
If we're
yes.
okay with that.
Come here to the front
Okay.
and we'll stand behind you. Mayor, down or up, whichever. Okay, yeah.
Do we get a speech?
Travis, move down just a little bit so that we can. Catrice, move down.
One, two. These are the real things.
How about hoisting it up like the World Cup?
There we go. World Cup. Oh, wait, I'm not getting everyone in the. There you go. Oh, no, I'm too short again. Okay, I'm gonna go over here. And that's good, okay. Awesome, thank you.
Benjamin and Jules, thank you for organizing this and bringing this to our community. Next, we'll have our public comment period as indicated on the screen. A required public hearing will be held for certain agenda items prior to council action. After each such item has been presented, time to comment will be provided for all those who wish to speak. Please note that item 5 on the agenda has been continued to a future meeting. For items that do not require public hearing, public comment will still be taken. At this time, up to 15 minutes have been set aside for open public comment, which is intended to allow for comment on matters that do not appear on the agenda, but are limited to topics regarding municipal business or within municipal council purview. During public comment, each speaker will generally be limited to 2 minutes. Due to noticing requirements, no formal action will be taken in this meeting on matters that do not appear on the agenda. Those with comments are invited to approach the podium. Any who are participating on Zoom can just raise their hand feature on their computer. And please begin your comments by stating your name and city of residence. If there are any here who would like to offer public comment, you can approach the podium at this time.
Hello, there we go. Stockton Carter, Provo. I guess I just wanted to follow up a little on from I think it was 2 months ago on the expansion or redesign of the mall, the Provo Mall. What decisions has the council made on that, if any, yet, or is it still in deliberation?
So Stockton, feel free to offer your own thoughts or views on the project, the Brixton Capital Project, and then we'll take that into account. We also invite you to exchange with us via email, but if you've got any personal thoughts that you'd like to share about that project, we're happy to hear those.
Mainly, I mean, for the most part, it looked pretty good, so that's why I wondered. I just on the issue of the trailer park, I knew that was a consideration that it would be expanded to that. If that does go through, is there plans to, I don't know, make a new one somewhere near, or if not, then what will the housing situation be for those people? I think that'll be all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you, Stockton. Stockton, feel free to leave your email address with Malia, our staff member, and we're happy to exchange with you that way. Thank you. Other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment at this time and move to our first item of business, which is a resolution correcting the adopted certified tax rates for Provo City for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026. This item would be presented to the council by our Utah County Auditor, Rod Mann. Rod, thank you for being here with us again tonight.
You're very welcome. I'll invite Bert to join me on the stand. Since most of you don't know what's going on here, I'll try and share that with you again. That was very much a sarcastic remark. My apologies. As you're aware, the county auditor's office had an error occur when we were calculating the certified tax rates, which resulted in your certified tax rate being 5% lower than it should have been. And the valuation notices that were sent out in July had an estimated property tax amount for residents for Provo and Provo School District that was 5% lower than it really was. And so that mistake was discovered by actually a Provo resident. We looked into it and we worked with the State Tax Commission and our county attorneys. And the conclusion was this is something that can be fixed before the tax bill goes out. And we have provided options to both the school district and Provo to fix it now or let it ride for a year and then fix it later. And our recommendation is to fix it now. That's the way state law is written, is if you can fix it, you should. We have flexibility here because we covered a corner that wasn't covered in the law. So the State Tax Commission gave us the latitude to say entities that were affected can fix it now or fix it later. Provo City and Provo School District were the most. The rest of them were not really material, so it will get fixed in the normal course of how the tax commission handles it. I want to be really, really clear that this was our problem, that no one on your staff had the ability to catch the problem because you didn't have access to the right information. We'll be changing things next year, so we'll be automating a manual process that was the root cause of this, that the humans were involved in. Humans make mistakes occasionally. We're automating that, and we'll provide information to the city finance directors so they can double check their numbers, which we didn't do before, and we know how to do it, and we'll be doing that next year. I want to apologize for creating the problem. It's ours and no one else's, and so I appreciate our interactions. They've been very professional and you've been very kind. The net impact for Provo residents on the city portion for the average homeowner is going to be about $22 more than was communicated to them in the estimated tax amount. So the estimate was $22 wrong on a roughly $3,000 tax bill.
For a year.
For a average primary
Single
resident,
year,
for
yeah.
a single homeowner. For businesses with $1 million worth of property, it was about $83 wrong. And if you had 2 million, just do the math, or 3 or 4 or 5. Again, it's about 5%. So on your portion of the tax bill, which is 10-ish% of the overall tax bill. So the impact, while meaningful, and $20 does buy you a McDonald's dinner for 2, maybe. But it is an impact and we apologize.
Thank you, Rod. Brett, anything you'd like to add?
No, I just like to, express our appreciation to the cities and the school district, as we identify this error and working through that, and the state tax commission in giving us the guidance we needed to ensure that, we could, make a correction and make it quickly. So, everyone that we've worked with and to try and get this fixed and figured out, has been, very, very great to work with. And we appreciate the council's time tonight to kind of give an overview of what happened and let you know what we can do now. So.
Great,
Let
thank
me,
you.
for the public's sake, quickly go through the slides, which will be a reflection of what I said. There's the problem, there's the impact. Didn't mention that there were about 23,000 primary residential parcels that are affected in Provo and about 2,100 businesses. There's the amounts, and the solution is you can fix it now or fix it later. The school district already voted to fix it now. We will be sending a correction notice out to all affected residents, showing them this is what our estimate was. This is what it really is. And when you get your tax bill at the end of October, 1st of November, you shouldn't be surprised. And if you want details, you can go there.
And this does for Provo residents also extend the Board of Equalization valuation appeal deadline from September 15th to 45 days after the date of the notice. Currently, we are scheduled to send this correction postcard. It'll just be a 4x6 postcard explaining, giving the basics and just taking care of the actual day that was changed. I'll be sending, we're currently scheduled to send that out on September 30th. No later than. It might be a little bit earlier, but that won't change the valuation appeal deadline, which will now move for Provo City residents to November 15th. Well, excuse me, November 17th, which is a Monday.
And just for everybody's sake, the valuation information that was on the valuation notice was correct. That was not, there was no mistake in that. So whatever it said your property was assessed, that is correct. Now, you may disagree, and now you have an extra 45 days to
Appeal.
file your disagreement.
The error was that we valued Provo highly and decided that you're worth more than you actually were. Sorry.
Well, so you should be flattered.
You should be
We
much more.
thought you were worth $500 million more than you were.
Thank you. Any questions for the county? Counselor Whipple.
Yes, so I had talked to some citizens about this, and at least one of them said that when he got his tax valuation, it seemed to be super low, and he reached out to the county and was told, no, it's right.
The valuation or the tax?
The tax rate. His valuation he thought was fine, but he's like, why is this going down? This number doesn't seem to be right. And he
Yeah.
said that he was kind of dismissed at the county level, just assured the numbers were right.
Yeah.
Well, he was right. We were wrong.
Did you have a lot of inquiries like that, or
No.
people are mostly happy that the numbers looked low?
Yes, usually we get calls when the numbers are high and it's crickets when the numbers are low. So that's unique that that someone contacted the county and got the response. I didn't take that call because I don't remember hearing that. But typically it's not very often we have someone call us during this period and say, hey, my taxes are too low. Why are they too low? We do look at those, and sometimes there might be a reason for that. For example, if something's been misclassified, and so its value's not as high as it should be, or was very typical is someone who's purchased a new home, they've moved in, they know what they bought the home for, and they get their bill, and it's only basically for the land value, and that's because the lag of time between when the home is given a certificate of occupancy and when the assessor's office picks up the additional value, sometimes there's a year lag if that home was closed on basically past March 1st. So those are the typical things, and we do try to answer everyone's questions. We did not really find this error basically until about 2 weeks ago. So when valuation notices went out in July, we would have been very confident about our numbers, and we were very confident about our numbers right up until the moment we realized they were wrong.
Yeah, well, and I would also like to thank you that you were willing to meet with the citizen Mike Rohn, who came in and brought this, that you took the time to look at the numbers with him and were able to recognize the mistake.
Yeah.
He is a persistent member of our community. But it seems that in this case, he's done something really, really helpful for us.
Yes, because it would have been, especially for the school district, a difficult circumstance to have to plan after the fact. You know, if next year they got $4 million less than what they were planning, that would have been a hardship if they hadn't thought through how are we going to last a year? It would have got corrected, but he did buy time and gave us choices. So good on
That
Mike.
is, that is the strength of our certified tax rate system, is that the up and downs, and even if errors like this happen in the past, the tax rate adjusts to, and the valuation adjustments happen automatically. So there's some strength there to build some redundancy into the systems to kind of help smooth out the up and downs, which is what the certified tax rate system and laws were adopted to do in the 80s, to smooth out some significant up and downs that cities we're seeing. So we do have a redundant system, but this one was definitely way outside what we consider the margin of error, and realized that we wanted to get on this as possible and make a correction as quickly as possible if we could.
Is there any indication that there have been similar problems, maybe on a smaller scale in previous years, that just kind of smoothed themselves out?
Could be, you know, if there was a problem that was significant, we would have been notified, like, okay, we got 2 million less than we thought we were going to get. And that would have created an issue. But because the tax system works the small variances out over time, there could have been minor issues, but they just sort themselves out. And the number that you get with the certified tax rate is not a guarantee that you'll get that amount of money. It's the tax commission's best effort to say, this is about what you're going to get. And I went back a couple of years ago and looked at the county's variance on what we collected versus what the certified rate said we would collect. And we were between 0.5% lower to 3% higher. So there is some variance even when everything is correct. When we talk to the tax commission, they have an internal margin of error of 2%. And they said occasionally they've seen at least one case they can remember a 10% variance from what they had put in, with nothing being, no errors in place. So they do sort themselves out. In this case, we know that the kind of error that happened, we're protecting against that, and any variances in the past have been sorted out. And to our knowledge, we've never had a large variance that an entity came back to us and said, this doesn't make sense.
And the other part of that is that the tax rate becomes, and the values become locked after a certain length of time. So unless there is a significant variance where that's reflected in tax collections, essentially we wouldn't know about it, and the tax rate itself adjusts and makes up for any differences. Or it also works in reverse. It's not just for losses, but also for gains. If there's a variance, if for example, if instead of adding value we had instead of adding value we had subtracted value, then Provo would have had a positive variance, which then would have been taken back the following year. And again, the rate calculations are such to adjust for that automatically. So obviously in a year that you get more money than you're expecting, that's not bad, but again, the rate will adjust to account for that variance automatically.
And so there were a few other identified errors outside of Provo,
Outside
but
of Provo,
those were errors of like 0.5 to 2%. So those were within your normal kind of margin of error that you're operating with anyway.
Yeah, Provo City and Provo School District, because they were such a large variance, we wanted to be more active in correcting those rather than just letting those go into the standard deviation.
And we talked to all those entities, and if there is an issue after March, we'll look at the collections. They'll be rectified next year, but they actually were within 0.01 to 1.8%.
Some were very, very small.
like tiny.
So you probably wouldn't have found those if there hadn't been the more egregious
Right.
error in
Yeah.
Provo.
In fact, I'm glad you're asking that question, because part of the reason why this error wasn't necessarily discovered when we calculated the tax rates is because the total value variance was split over across several tax districts. Well, actually, a total of 7. And the total variance was actually within what the tax commission would consider a normal variance.
For the whole
Provo's-
county.
Yeah, Provo's value year over year actually went up by $1 billion in value. Now, this extra 500 million pushed that to $1.5 billion in value. And so obviously that was overstated. But Provo still had $1 billion of taxable value increase. That's not growth. That's just homes that were homes and businesses and personal property and centrally assessed. It was all appraised higher this year than was last year. So part of the reason why this was missed, which is again something we need to just have more eyes on, is because we still were falling within what we've considered normal parameters of value growth or value retraction.
Wonderful. Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it.
Other questions for the county? Thank you, Rod and Brett.
And again, thank you.
We would like to open this item for public comment. If there are any here who would like to make a comment related to this issue, you can step to the podium. If not, we'll close public comment and bring the item back to council for discussion. Councilors, any clarifications or discussion or questions? If not, we'll call for a vote. And Kevin, is Councilor Christensen online with us? Okay. Okay. Councilor McKay.
Do we want to put the resolution?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you put the resolution up, please? So this is the resolution that we're voting on. Councilor McKay. Already voted yes. Councilor Hanley.
Yes.
Councilor Bogdan.
Yes.
Councilor Hoban.
Yes.
Councilor Garrett. Yes. And Councilor Whipple.
Yes.
So this motion and resolution passes by a vote of 6-0. Thank you. With Councilor Christensen excused. Councilor Christensen is online.
Yes, I am.
Councilor Christensen, what is your vote on the resolution correcting the adopted certified tax rate for Provo
Yes.
City?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Christensen. So that motion passes by a vote of 7-0. Thank you again, Rod. Next, we have an ordinance amending the zone map classification of real property generally located at 2525 West, 620 North, from the R1 1 Family Residential Zone to the A1 Agriculture Zone in the Lakeview South neighborhood. This will be presented by one of our planners, Nancy Robinson.
Hello. So this was heard by the Planning Commission on August 13th. And just to bring it an issue up, when the staff report was written, the lot lines were such as what's in the staff report, but before Planning Commission actually happened, there was an additional 7 feet that was adjusted. So where it says the total acreage is 9.61 acres, but it's going to be split into 2 parcels. One is 3.66 acres and the other one is 5.95 acres. So there is only a 0.65 area that they're asking to be rezoned. So this is the total parcel as it exists now. And if you don't look at the red square, you can see that the top one is zoned agricultural and the bottom part is zoned residential R18. The red square is the part that's going to be split off and be connected to the top part. So they are asking that in order to make things clear and correct and all lined up together, that one parcel be zoned agricultural instead of having one parcel being split into two kinds of zones. So that is what the parcels will look like when the eventual split happens. In your ordinance, it does have the correct legal language, legal description of the boundaries of that parcel.
Thank you, Nancy. Any questions for Nancy? Thank you.
Okay.
This item is also available for public comment if there are any here. I should ask first if the applicant is here and would like to make any comment. Okay, great. Thank you. Any public comment from others? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring the item back to the council for discussion. Councilors, any questions or clarifications, discussion? All right, we'll call for a vote then. Councilor Christensen? We'll come back. Councilor Handley?
Yes.
Councilor Bogdan?
Yes.
Councilor Hoban?
No.
Councilor Whipple?
Yes.
Councilor Garrett, yes. Councilor McKay?
Yes.
And Councilor Christensen?
I'm sorry. I got the mute wrong. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. That motion passes then by a vote of 6-1. Thank you. Next, we have an implied motion on an ordinance amending the zone map classification of real property generally located at 1050 West, 100 North, from the one family residential or R16 zone to the very low density residential VLDR zone. This is in the Dixon neighborhood and will be presented by another of our planners, Jessica Donachie. Hello,
Thank-
Jessica.
Hi. Yes, so as you mentioned, this is the property at 1050 West, 100 North. The property is currently zoned in our R16 zone, which allows for accessory dwelling units. The property owner is seeking to rezone the property to allow a subdivision to create an additional single-family dwelling. This slide is showing how the rezone would look with just that parcel being zoned VLDR, and then also a rough plat map of how it would look. They will provide a revised plat map should this item be approved. That will be a condominium plat map, which means each single family dwelling would be its own parcel. All of the land between them would be common area. This item was brought to Planning Commission. They recommended denial due to a few concerns, mostly regarding landscaping and maintenance, wanting to see owner occupancy, and then also concerns about a more complete approach to infill development. Zoning or planning staff initial recommendation was for denial just due to the fact that this property allows for an accessory dwelling unit, which is an infill opportunity and creates roughly the same level of density without rezoning. If there are no questions for me, the applicant is also here and has some slides prepared to address some of these concerns.
Any questions for Jessica? All right, thank you, Jessica. We invite the applicant then to come forward and share your presentation. Welcome. Remind us of your names and city of residence.
I'm Heather Shelley, Provo.
And I'm Kendall Seymour, also in Provo.
Welcome.
Okay. So I'm Kendall. I have a master's in mechanical engineering. But since I've turned to home remodeling and planning with Heather. She's a theater performer, realtor, and a UVU professor. A lot of stake in Utah County. This property was built in 1908. It's a 4-bed, 1-bath on 1,700 square feet on a 0.3 acre lot. It's one of those deep lots that was plotted out in the 20s for farming, so you could farm your backyard. We have since fully remodeled the interior of the home.
So we first had the property appraised. It came in at 435,000. And as we put it on the market, we found quickly that people are not willing to pay that, or they couldn't pay that. And I think the main reason is interest rates are pretty high. And so in the end, we had the listing at 414,000. We had one offer, but we weren't able to take that without losing a huge amount of money. Even at 425, this is the cheapest 4-bedroom single family home in all of Provo. So it's really not possible to have cheaper than this. There's not anything out there that's cheaper than this, but it's still difficult for people to afford it. And this is relevant because the interest that the city has in creating ADUs is difficult at this price point, basically because of those interest rates.
So we now have two options for this property. The first one is to rent it, which the city, doesn't like. We can keep that rental until the home prices increase if they do. And unfortunately, that makes purchasing this home expensive for the next person down the line. And then the condition of the back lot would essentially remain unchanged. Right now, those deep lots in the Dixon neighborhood are somewhat of an eyesore. They're difficult to maintain because they're so large, and the financial resources of those owners is usually a little more limited to not maintaining an extra, sometimes half acre of landscaping. So this results in no owner occupied units in our property. What we're petitioning for is to rezone and subdivide. That does add a single family home. We believe the most likely option is that this lot will be purchased by a individual or really small developer who'll put a single family home back there. And they'll also beautify the neighborhood, and the original home, we are able to sell it for a more competitive price, even because of the profits from selling the back lot. And the back lot will be, improved by being most likely bulldozed and built on and landscaped, so that the net results into owner occupied units in the area. As you've heard, the city planning wants to recommend a detached ADU or an attached ADU. In our preliminary research, with homes of this age, the attached or detached are roughly the same build cost. But I think this is a financial barrier for anybody who has homes in the Dixon neighborhood. It's roughly $300,000 for a detached or attached ADU. Attached is a little bit less, but roughly similar. So if you run some investment calculations, assuming 3% appreciation value, normal rent amounts, etc., you don't make money back for 7 years if you build a detached ADU. So it doesn't work financially in the short or medium run because of the loan prices and everything that's going on today. And then again, that has to be owner occupied in order to have the detached ADU, and it just doesn't seem feasible to have someone in that neighborhood be able to afford this type of a build on their property. And I think evidence of that is the fact that no detached ADUs were approved in 2023 or completed. And then the city loan data is from 2022, and we all know that the rates have gone up almost triple since then. So that really affects this recommendation to have a detached ADU. The general plan has a list of consideration items for for subdivisions. And this was in my full report, but we believe that our property or this subdivision will answer positively for 7 of the 8 items. The mix of home types, the infill development specifically, this is a wiser use of infill than what's currently being seen in the Dixon neighborhood. And all those other things about buses and utilities and streets, those are all positive.
And because of the concerns of the Planning Commission, we're willing to create the requirement that it be owner occupied through deed restriction. And that could also allow us to make it so that there's limited common, so that there's no issues with maintenance.
Right, so we're willing to offer those to as part of this subdivision if it's approved. In conclusion, I think that breaking the precedent of keeping or enforcing ADUs instead of splitting will allow beautification of the lot and two owner-occupied homes instead of one rented unit. So, thank you
And
for your time.
finally, if the council has any concerns, we'd appreciate the opportunity to respond to those before public comment is closed.
Thank you much.
Thank you, Kendall and Heather. Thank you for your presentation and the very well put together. Questions for Kendall and Heather? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica, could you help me understand a little more in the more traditional flag lot scenario, which we have throughout the city? What are the requirements for setback or access that is missing from this property?
So in this instance, because they want to rezone it to VLDR, they cannot have a traditional flag lot. Our flag lot section of code limits specifically to R1, RA, and agriculture. So that's why we've recommended they, if approved, submit a condominium plat. Again, that's just where each home is its own parcel and the rest of the area is common area between the two homes. And as part of each parcel, that can include the required parking. As you saw from the lot, they have the room to have the two homes on there and meet the required parking.
Okay, and that's if it were a condominium plat?
Correct, yes. If rezoned to VLDR, it has to be a condominium plat.
I see. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Jessica, Counselor McKay?
With the VLDR, how many units would they be allowed to do?
Off the top of my head, I am not sure. What they've proposed here is just to do the one additional single family dwelling.
But once you have the zone, you can do whatever it allows. You don't know what that allows?
They would have to come through and do a new subdivision plat.
Oh, you would?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So even if we did do a deed restriction with homeowner occupancy, they could
Mhm.
still come back and do another plat.
Yes.
Would that come through the council or just the planning commission?
That would be administrative. It would not go back to council.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Counselor Handley?
Could you walk us through the reasoning about the initial decision or recommendation that the staff preferred the ADU alternative? And in light of what they just told us, do you have any amendments to that, or do you still recommend the same?
Generally speaking, the feedback that we have been getting from Planning Commission was that where there is an opportunity to increase density without requiring a rezone, they prefer to see that consistency, and we wanted to be handling these applications with consistency. So to keep those lined up, that's why we went with our initial recommendation.
Okay, yeah, so that doesn't change in light of what they said. I mean, I guess their main argument is the financial one, right? That the
Yes.
interest rate issue doesn't make that feasible for them.
Mm.
Okay. I don't know, Mr. Pepperoni, did you want to add something?
Yes, I think the financial information they provided is compelling, and the staff is not offended at what they're proposing. We were just trying to be consistent with a former planning commission recommendation to you on another item, similar situation. We believe that if they were to be approved as they've asked, we could handle the VLDR in a way that through the use of fee ownership and limited common area, it would function like two lots, like a main lot and a flag lot behind it, like we have all over the city. So it could function the same way. Staff isn't, like I said, offended at what they're proposing. We're just trying to find consistency with the planning commission.
Mr. Pepperoni, did you have a recommendation to the planning commission, or does the staff's recommendation come as a result of their vote?
Well, it's an odd situation in that if you look at the staff report,
Mhm.
most of the criteria we agreed with and recommended approval on. Most of the criteria for the zone change we felt was justified in the staff report, and yet the recommendation didn't really follow that analysis. So it was a weird situation in that way. And the reason why it flip-flopped was because we felt like the planning commission should treat the properties consistently. They had one just a month earlier that was in an area that allowed for ADUs. And the planning commission decided, let's push towards ADU approval rather than rezonings. And so we kind of followed that precedent. But it was an unusual situation where the staff report would have led you to believe staff was going to recommend approval, and then staff recommended not approval.
Mhm. So let me ask an earlier question, maybe differently to better understand. Why does the excuse me, R16 not allow for a flag lot? Is it that there's not adequate land on the side for a driveway?
Yes, it's the requirements for how wide that drive access has to be
Okay,
in comparison with the requirements for the lot width.
okay. So the lot width does not allow for a flag for
Yep,
a
lot
driveway
width,
access.
setback, and then the drive access
And a
requirement.
flag lot by definition has a driveway.
Yes,
Okay,
that is individually owned.
okay.
Yeah.
Counselor Bogdan.
So Bill, gosh, that's loud. If they were to come in for a variance, financial hardship is not a consideration for a variance, right?
It is not, neither is a self-created hardship. And if they're proposing to create a flag lot, but it's essentially a flag lot, the board would say you created your own hardship by creating the flag lot. We can't approve this. So it would meet the criteria for a variance in at least two ways.
Thanks.
Counselor Hoban.
So this could be an ADU. It'd have to be owner occupied. They could build an ADU though, like theoretically, right? So the developers, and no interest in living there though, probably, right? Not, yeah. That's the issue with the ADU side. I mean, I would like to figure out a way to make this work. I like the idea that they're willing to offer owner occupancy, but it sounds like there's no way to really enforce that long term, right? Is that how you understood that, Counselor McKay?
Well, we were anticipating the same owner occupancy restriction that we've talked about before, where they would be actually agreeing that it couldn't be rented. Neither unit could be rented for its first year of ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but they could come back and do change the plat of their LDR, and it would be administrative and wouldn't even come back to us.
Is there any way to
Well-
ensure that that wouldn't happen
Well,
through
we
a development
typically do that
agreement?
through a development agreement. Now the developer would have to proffer that, but we typically handle that through a development agreement.
Yeah, I think I think the confusion arises from the earlier discussion was just about them. If they just independently record a deed restriction with no obligation to keep it in place, then they could later undo it because they're the property owners. But if there's a development agreement that contractually requires the deed restriction to stay in place, then I think we could make it permanent.
See, I'm just thinking if there's a way to create another home, first owner occupied home,
Right.
then let's, I'd like to do that. So what would we need the developer to proffer, I guess, to make this happen, to make
Let
this
me
work?
explain to the developer what a development agreement means, what that entails.
Okay.
And while Bill's explaining that, I guess the one comment here is we have a different form of the ordinance we use when we're approving development agreements. So assuming that they're willing to proffer, we probably either need to continue to change, actually change the ordinance, or take a recess while I run upstairs for 10 minutes and fix it. One of the two.
We're willing to do a development agreement for that purpose. Yeah.
I mean, from my perspective, creating two homes for sale, I don't know. I know they got themselves in a bind, but if it's going to be owner occupied and
If it can be guaranteed, yeah.
yeah, I like that idea. So thanks for proffering that.
Let's do public comment first.
Oh, sorry, jumping ahead.
That's fine. Unless there are other questions for Jessica, for Bill, or for the applicant. Counselor Whipple.
So I just have a quick question, and that is, we're looking at changing the zone and doing an agreement so that a second structure, a second house can be built on it. I apologize if you said this, but were you planning on building the second structure, or were you hoping to sell the lot to have somebody else build the second structure?
I assumed that it would be sold and someone else would build it.
Okay, so the idea is that you want the subdivision so you can sell the lot to be developed. You would have the other house for sale, and you would be selling the lot to be developed and passing on these requirements that it be built according to these conditions. It has to be owner occupied. So whoever would buy it knowing those conditions, and that would go into their financing and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right, we'll open this item for public comment then. Is there anyone here who would like to comment on the project? If not, we'll close public comment and bring the item back to council for discussion. Councilor Hoban.
Yeah, so I like the idea. I think these lots are really kind of weird because they have all this property in the back that's not being used. So I like the idea of like flag lots, but it sounds like that's not an option. So the creative solution makes sense. I just want to be owner occupied. I don't feel like we need to do the developer any favors if they got themselves in a bit of a bind here, but at the same time, I don't think they need to be punished either. I mean, on the surface, if we can add a home, it's not like it's that parking's an issue in that area or anything. So, just on the surface, it seems like a good idea if we can make it work. I would probably say it's a short meeting. So I would say write it up and get it done today rather than ask these guys to come back if the council is amenable and that's where they're leaning. But
if I could just respond to that, I'm willing to do that, especially if the developer expresses that there's some urgency. Given the specific situation where we're not dealing with a developer that's done development agreements before.
Okay.
I think if it were me, my preference would be to continue
Sure.
and actually get them a copy of the development agreement to review before we vote on it so that they really know what they're signing up for, would be my
Whatever.
suggestion.
Yeah, it's fine.
But I don't know if they have some kind of timeline that's causing them stress. So I don't know if you want to let them speak to that.
Go ahead.
Do I come or do I not come? I'm in real estate. I've been in real estate for about 9 years. I haven't done a development agreement, but I have seen them. And so I don't have any concerns about what it could be that I'm agreeing to. I feel like I understand. But thank you. That's really nice of you.
Thank you.
Well, Brian's like me. He's like, I would want to look over it and have my counsel look at it too before I did it.
I mean, it's not like they're going to have to sign right now because our standard procedure is that the ordinance authorizes the mayor to negotiate and execute a development agreement. So that would normally take place afterwards anyway. But I just out of an abundance of caution, I thought they might want to see it first. So if they're comfortable, I'm comfortable. I just need a few minutes. I guess council probably has more discussion about whether they're even wanting to approve it in that case. I will, out of an abundance of caution, go ahead and go up and start working on it while you continue your discussion. And Justin can text me if you all decide you don't need it anyway.
Thank you, Brian. Counselor Handley.
I'll just second what Mr. Hoban was saying. I think I'm not thrilled with the rezone problem, but I think the outcome is what we want. So it gets us something that I think is is good with the two houses and owner occupancy. So if we can guarantee that with a development agreement, I'm supportive.
Counselor Whipple.
Yes, this is an interesting one because our general plan encourages infill and this gradual, very slight increase in density in such a way that the neighborhood could still absorb it. And, you know, the applicant tried to do the most obvious solution, which was the flag lot, and it didn't quite work with that. I don't know if we need to look at our flag lot requirements and see if those need to be shifted so that we don't run into this problem again. I like that this has the opportunity for 2 homes to be purchased and owned instead of just having an ADU or, you know, one owner occupied home and the possibility of an ADU, but not necessarily 2 families there. The only weird thing that I'm seeing about this is that, you know, you would be able to sell the one little house and not the backyard to it, that would be sold and treated separately. That creates a little bit of weirdness, but I think for accomplishing the purposes that we need to for the plan, this is good. I would also imagine that the sales price for the existing home may be a little bit less now that there's less square footage land going with it. And so that could make the existing house more affordable. And so that accomplishes some of our housing affordability goals. I also think that probably building whatever you're going to build there, or whoever's going to build there, is going to be at least $300,000 based on the cost of construction and everything. So that could be a fairly modest house, or it could be, I don't know, what's the opposite of a modest house? An indecent house, but it could be expensive or not. But I think this is a creative way to accomplish the city goals that we have. I'm sorry it was so hard, but I'm grateful that everybody's kind of worked together to accomplish what needs to happen here.
I do feel, Kendall mentioned in his presentation relative to the principle of precedence and the fact that breaking precedent would allow for the construction of 2 homes, for the occupancy of 2 homes. But it's a principle that we do have to consider and keep in mind. It's hard to know what you don't know, and how many others might seek similar kinds of accommodations for a zone change, whether or not that's even an issue. But it is different than what we've been asked to consider before. There definitely is a precedent shift in permitting this kind of project. Councillor McKay?
I think changing a zone is a really, really big deal. I think these are great houses. They're starter homes, right? And I bet you they're right. The interest rate is part of the problem on maybe why they're having a hard time selling. And maybe it was priced too high. I don't know. But it's just a really big deal, changing zones. And I do want to increase owner occupancy. So it's a tricky one, but I think a ton of people also would love that yard with that house. So.
And increase housing stock. Councillor Bogdan?
I'm concerned about setting a precedent as well. I don't like that would happen. We do open the door, and there's a lot of things that could potentially bring. I also agree that changing a zone is a big deal, especially where this area does allow for ADUs and external ADUs. And I think that is an amazing way to increase the density and without setting a precedence and changing a zone for this area in that neighborhood.
Councillor Christensen?
Well, I would share the same concern about, I think it's the wrong way to address this need. I too like the idea of more owner occupancy, and I'm afraid that this actually sets the wrong precedent, and that's what makes it difficult for me to support this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Then I'll either look for a motion on the ordinance that's before us or a substitute motion. Counselor Handley.
I'll move that we approve the request with the proffered development agreement in place that guarantees owner occupancy for both units.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Hoban, thank you. So we have a motion by Counselor Handley and a second by Counselor Hoban to approve the zone amendment change.
Chair Garrett,
Yes.
before you take a vote on that, do you want to see, typically it's been the council's precedent to see the language. Do you want me to see where the city attorney's at with that draft language, or?
So this would be in the spirit of having the proposed development agreement in advance for review.
Well,
by-
it's gonna change your text amendment, your zone change.
Okay.
Let me check and see where he's at.
Do we have elevator music we could play right now?
His ears are burning. He's on his way.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jessica, so they don't want to live there, so they can't do an ADU. Flag lot won't work because not enough room for a driveway. And it sounds like the council doesn't like a zone change. Any other ideas?
No. Unfortunately, they won't meet the requirements for a variance because it is a self-inflicted hardship, because they're trying to create an additional lot. And I guess the other option would be for them to propose an ordinance text amendment to either the required lot width for the zone or to flag lots so that they could still provide a drive access.
And that would apply citywide. That's something
That
that
would
we
be a
would
citywide application, which
take time and research and
it would have a lot more impact than a rezone in this instance because it would be citywide.
And Jessica, would the VLDR zone require, probably through some kind of landscaping ordinance, a sidewalk from the street to the rear to the back home? Or is that part of the landscaping?
So there would be the required drive access to get back there. I don't think that there would be a specific requirement for a separate walkway, but there would be paving access for vehicles to get back there, which could include a sidewalk.
So the driveway would be for the front home.
There would still need to be a driveway to get to the rear.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. It just couldn't be considered a flag lot because it doesn't have the.
Correct, because it wouldn't be privately owned by the property in the
Yeah.
rear. It would be considered common area.
Okay, I
So
see.
looks wise, it would resemble a flag lot, but ownership wise, it would be common area.
Okay. Counselor Hanley, could you restate your motion based on the fact that that Brian is back with the
Okay,
proposed?
my motion was to accept the request for the rezone with the proffered development agreement that is now before us.
Okay, great. So we'll need to, by council rule in the handbook, we'll need to do this as a two-step process. We'll first need to amend the ordinance to accept the red lines and then pass the ordinance after as amended. Okay.
Okay, so my first motion should be to accept the red line language.
Yes, and so I'll walk through that just so.
Okay.
So what's changed here is part 2 is new, which authorizes the mayor to execute, to negotiate and execute a development agreement consistent with the developer's representations, which in this case would be being contractually bound to record deed restrictions requiring owner occupancy and prohibiting rental of the property without, I guess, let me clarify, they're not ADUs, right? So they would have, they literally, neither of the homes could be rented, right? They both got, okay. So then what it does down in part 3, it does two things. It says that the only part that the ordinance, the part of the ordinance that makes the zone change is not effective until the development agreement is executed. And then in paragraph E, further clarifies that if the development agreement is not executed within 1 year, then the zone change is null and void.
Okay. So I move that we accept the red line language as proposed by Mr. Jones in this ordinance.
Second that.
All right, we'll call for a vote. Mr. Hanley,
Yes.
Counselor Bogdan,
No.
Counselor Hoban,
Yes.
Counselor Whipple,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett, yes. Counselor McKay,
No.
Counselor Christensen.
No.
So that motion passes by a vote of 4-3.
And at this point, you actually don't need a second
Okay.
motion because now there is an implied motion to approve the ordinance as now amended. So you can just take a vote on that implied motion.
So we'll now look for a motion to,
Just about.
we'll now take a vote on the implied motion. Counselor Bogdan,
No.
Counselor Hoban,
Yes.
Counselor Whipple,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett, yes. Counselor McKay,
No.
Counselor Christensen.
No.
Is that a no?
Correct. No.
And Counselor Hanley.
Yes.
So the implied motion passes by a vote of 4-3. If there's no objection, we'll now adjourn the Provo Municipal Council meeting by unanimous consent.